Hello everybody and welcome back to the channel. This is episode 22 or 22nd of my investing journey, where I share my weekly portfolio updates, ETF buys and sells, income progress, and how I'm building an income-focused portfolio over time. As always, this is not financial advice. I'm just sharing my real portfolio and documenting the journey and hopefully, providing a little bit of an insight as to how income investing actually works, right? As you can see by my Wealthsimpli account, we are up 10.61% as of the end of close of market on Friday. It was not the highest point of the week. We actually were up, I believe, 11.94%, nearly 12%. And then on Friday we had one of those days, and it went down to 10.62%. Still very good week, but we'll go into more details as we enter into the presentation. So as always, I added the 75 weekly contribution. This is the way I see it, investing in my future. I've never really actually gave you guys what my time frame is, but it's pretty much 10 years, really. Obviously, 9 years, because we're almost we're in June already, so half of this year is gone. So we got 9 more years once we get to January. But that's really what we're looking at. Let's see what we can do in that time frame, 10 years, which is quite a long time frame, and see how we get on with it. So I invested my $75. Again, investing in the future. Consistent contributions every week. Long-term growth. We're looking at the 10-year time frame, and the objective is really financial freedom, right? That's really what we're trying to achieve. This week, I actually sold something. You may remember that about a couple of weeks ago, I mentioned to you that there was a new fund by Global X called CMCL, which was an amalgam of multiple ETF from all the different energy sectors. So, you had lithium, you had uranium, you had gold, you had silver, you had copper. So you had commodities, you had energy. It was all mixed. It was great. And I was just waiting to see what the distribution was going to be. So the distribution finally came out, and it was more than what I was getting for CPCC and AGCC, but not for GLCL, right? It didn't make sense. And even though I could have bought, if when I went to sell it, I could have bought 2 shares of CMCL for every share of GLCL, then I would have done the swap, right? Because it would have made sense. Unfortunately, it wasn't like that. There was no 2-for-1. So it didn't make sense to sell GLCL right now. So I kept it. However, I did sell CPCC and AGCC. And funny enough, with the money of CPCC, with the money of the proceeds of the sale of those 2 funds, I was actually able to buy more shares than what I had before. So yeah, I was pretty good. So on top of CMCL, I added 1 share of HHIS, 1 share of HPYB, 1 share of SIXI, and 1 share of PAG. Okay. This week, partly rotation, partly continued accumulation, as we do. Now, on the income side, we got all the final distributions for the month of May. We received in May $53.03, which represents a 16.8% increase versus the previous month of April, which we received $45.40. So obviously I'm very happy. That is the objective. The objective is to keep increasing the distributions that we receive. So the more distribution we receive, it also allows us to invest and to buy more shares, right? So, I'm very, very happy with that. You could really say that, it's a really strong month-over-month jump. And like I mentioned before, this is exactly the kind of income growth that I want to keep on building over time, right? In terms of the overall portfolio performance, as I mentioned before, last week we were at 9.53%. This week we are up to 10.61%. Yeah, I'm happy. It's not a bad thing that the portfolio grows. Don't get me wrong. I would rather that it didn't grow so fast. So, because that would mean that, the share price remains stable, meaning that I could buy more. But hey, you know what? Beggars can be choosers. It's growing. It's okay. We'll see what's going to happen there. There's bound to be a pullback in the market at some point. As we will see once we go into the individual assets, things just keep going up, and it's pretty scary because I know that eventually everything that goes up is going to have to come down, and I'm just wondering how hard is it going to come down. Not that I'm bothered, but it will be nice to know, because then I could put some money on the side so I could buy more. But anyways, we shall see. Top winners for last week, obviously AMD. Why AMD? It's crazy. This is the fourth week. True is a little bit more. It's a little bit more of a humble, right? It's only 7.78% only, but it's the fourth week in a row. Eventually, it's going to have to drop, which will probably be a great opportunity to buy some more. But yeah, no, it's really crazy. It's really crazy. It's yeah. Uranium. There was a a bounce back for uranium. Broadcom also did pretty well. GLCL, there was another rebound. QDay, AHIS, HYLD, and CMCL. They all did pretty well. You could say that the leadership this week, obviously, it's very clear that it's tech, and then and some metals, and the commodities, which bounce back pretty nicely. Yeah, like I mentioned before, the biggest standout this week is again AMDY, which is up 7.78%. Yeah, it's pretty incredible, this particular position. It's yeah. On the weaker side, well, because something has to give. HPYB was down 1.5%. 60 was down 2.27%, which is funny because the Canadian banks actually had great results last week. So, I was actually a little bit surprised to see that the Canadian financials didn't do as well as I thought they were going to do. But yeah, no, it's okay. No bother. It just means that they're cheaper and I can buy more. We can see that there's a clear split this week. Tech and metals were up. Bank and some income names, they were just a little bit softer and they were down. One of the bigger reversals in terms of happy stories from last week is obviously the fact that the metals and the commodities were actually rebounded, right? So this is pretty good. What else do we have? Yes, the SpaceX IPO. Yeah. So this is coming not next week, but the week after that. I think it's on the 12th of January. Why do I mention it? Well, the way I see it, right? This is a huge IPO, right? We were talking about valuation of this company like is on the trillions. I do not know how much was going to be offered for people to buy, but I know that there's going to be a lot of FOMO, right? There's going to be a lot of fear of missing out. People are going to go crazy. People are going to have to find liquidity somewhere. And my take is that that will come from selling existing assets, right? So that could mean that we could see a drop in the market. We could see people that are going to try to take advantage, buy low, sell high, and then there's going to be a lot of people that are going to be trapped at the high when it's coming low. I don't know. I'm not really worried, right? For my portfolio specifically, I don't really have a lot of direct exposure when it comes to like these space holdings, right? Most of the holdings on my ETFs are Canadian listed covered call and income ETFs. So the bigger issue really will be probably from an indirect perspective, right? It's going to be that tech hype that adds to the froth, right? And then unwinds later. Names like CPCL, QDay, AHIS, they could feel it, but just because of their exposure to tech. So we're going to keep an eye on this. I'll be watching more from a sentiment angle perspective that actually a direct holding perspective, right? But I thought I'll mention it because we'll see. We'll see what's going to happen. So if we have to resume, give an overall resume of what this week was. Obviously, we gave the $75. There was a meaningful portfolio rotation. I got rid of 2 holdings, invested in a new one, part of the same sleeve, right, which is the commodities and metals sleeve. Income was up, very awesome. Metals bounced, tech stayed strong. Canadian bags were a little bit on the, the weak spot for the week. But overall, another great week. Let's see what happens next week. And this is it for episode 22. Hopefully you like what you see. If you do, please do give us a like and a follow. We're trying to get 100 subscribers by the end of this year. I do believe we are around 50 subscribers, which is pretty amazing. So thank you so much. And I will see you all next week for episode 23 or episode 23rd. Don't really know. Anyways, cheerios. Bye-bye. Thank you.